All right, let's roll. Let's keep trucking.
Weiter gehanken.
All right, you're on.
All right, looks like we're starting. All right, with Daf Chaf Hey Amud Aleph, Masechah Shabbos. So we were just discussing. What were we discussing? We're talking about Shemen Sreifa. Shemen Sreifa is oil that needs to be burnt, which is truma oil. Now, truma oil, which becomes tameya, one is supposed to burn. You cannot consume it. So we say you have to go ahead and burn it. So the Gemara now says. So 2 lines from the top of Chaf Hey Amud Aleph. B'yantu v'da aser ha b'chol shaper dami. So we see that when it comes to Yantif, that is when we said you're not allowed to go ahead and burn Shemen Sreifa, because we said, we mentioned earlier, it's a Gzeira, that you can't go ahead and you're not supposed to burn it then, or only things that you're supposed to burn for that holiday you burn then, but things that aren't really necessary for that day, you can burn at different times. So therefore, don't burn it on Yantif, burn it during Chol. Now, but it sounds like during Chol, it is mutter to go ahead and burn Truma Tamea. So why is that? So my time. So I'm going to give several reasons. Amarav, Kashem Shemitz, at least so if I Kachim Sheneit Mo, just like there's a mitzvah to go ahead and burn Kachim that became Tame, right? Which is said fairish in the pasuk. Kach mitzvah lisof is a Truma Sheneit Meis. So too, there's a mitzvah, right? There's a mitzvah to go ahead and burn Truma when it becomes Tame. The Amar Torah. So he says over there in the Torah, the Amar Torah, right? The Shas Biur Tiena Mimena. So during the Shas of the beer, during the Shas of that which you burn it, you can go ahead and get hana from it. So just like there's a mitzvah to burn, so just like there's the mitzvah to burn kachim when it comes to tamei, so too there's a mitzvah to burn truma. And the Torah says during the time of beer, you're allowed to go ahead and get hana. So heichan amra Torah. So where did the Torah say that? So Rav Nachman. Like for that which Rav Nachman said, Damar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Hua, Amar Kra. The pasuk says, V'ani hinei nasati lecha es mishmeres shumasai. And behold, right, I've given you, right, the mishmeres, right, the safeguard of my truma. Now it says trumasai, not trumasi. So trumasai is my truma, which is plural and not singular. So there's 2 different trumas, right? You're supposed to get. In other words, so we know truma. You give the kohen, or you give 1/50th approximately. Right. If you're, generous, you give 1/40th. If you're, cheapy, those give 1/60th. Right. So, you give the truma. There's 2 types of trumas. But shtei trumas are custom daber. Achas truma tahira, achas truma tmeya. And we see over here that there's 2 trumas that they have. There's truma tahira and truma tmeya. So truma tahira is obviously they can go ahead and consume. They can go ahead and put it in their food. Right. They can use it however they want. And the truma tmeya can also use v'amrachmana lecha. And the Torah says it's yours. Shalchatia. It should be for use lahaseka, right? Tachas tafshilech. In other words, you can go ahead and use it for fuel underneath your food. So in other words, if it becomes tameya, so even though you cannot go ahead and consume it because it's tameh and you're right and you're tahor, nevertheless, if the truma became tameh, you can still use it to go ahead and fuel your fires to cook your food. So you can use it for your benefits. You see, it's not something that you have to destroy and you cannot get zero benefit from. Rather, truma tameya is something that you can use for your benefit. You just can't eat it. You can't consume it, but you can use it in other ways, such as using it as fuel underneath your food.
So wait, so why can't you use truma tameya for your Shabbos candles?
Well, we said you can't use truma tameya on Shabbos candles because the Mishnah was referring to Yantif. It was basically a Friday.
Oh, it's only referring to Yantif.
Right, a Friday before, and therefore there's a special gzeira that you can't go ahead and burn truma tameya during Yantif, only during weekdays.
Okay, but on a typical Erev
So what's
Shabbos.
the difference between the 2?
So the difference between the 2 is on a regular weekday there is no problem of burning truma tameya on a Friday. So you're allowed to light it on a Friday, but you can't go ahead and burn it on a Yantif. So therefore, l'chayra, if it was a Friday on a regular day, it would be permitted to burn Shemen Sreifa. It's just the truma that you can't do it on Yantif. And even though you're supposed to kindle candles, right? Let's say when Yantif is Friday into Saturday, nevertheless, you're not allowed to go ahead and you can't go ahead and burn the Shemen Sreifa on that Yantif on that Friday because you have to start on Yantif because you can't burn it on Shabbos. So therefore, it would not be permitted to use Shemen Sreifa. You have to use some other oil that you have. Now the Gemara is going to give another reason. V'boy sema. It says over there. So velo biarti mimeno. So when one over here, I'm sorry, the pasuk, right? So a person says he makes a statement. Now, right, we know that we discussed a little bit by Chumas and Meiser. So there's different, there's a cycle in terms of which years are Meiser Sheni and which years are Meiser Ani. So it works is right year 2 and years 4 and 5. So in other words, there's two groups of 3, and the last one is is Shemitah. So the first 2 is Meiser Sheni. The second one is Meiser Sheni, which we mentioned is when someone basically takes those fruits and eats them Yerushalayim, or he consecrates it. He goes ahead and redeems it, or puts it into money, and then takes the money to Yerushalayim. Those are years 1, 2, 4, and 5. And years 3 and 6 are Meiser Ani, where it goes to the poor. Now, after the year 3 and after year 6, so the following Pesach, they basically make a statement, Zman Bir, that he says, I have given all my Meiser. It's been given away to prior places, and I'm not going ahead and I'm not holding any over. So that's called he makes the statement. So he says v'lo bi'arti menu, right? B'tameh. So it says v'lo bi'arti mimenu. So he says over there, right, that v'lo bi'arti mimenu. Now I have not consumed any of it b'tameh while it's tameh. So mimenu iya tamavir aval tamavir shemon shel truma. In other words, by meiser sheni, you can't go ahead and consume meiser sheni when it's tameh. However, but you're allowed to go ahead and consume meiser, oil, truma that has come tummy. So what do you see over here? Obviously, you can't go ahead and eat it if it's tummy, but you can go ahead and consume it. How do you consume it? By getting benefit, right? By using it for your fuel of your food. So where it says, so we said over there that we want to say that meiser sheni, you can't go ahead and consume it when it's tummy, right? Because that's in a statement. But sounds like maybe truma you could. So who says maybe truma you're allowed to go ahead and consume it? Maybe it's kudshim. You can go ahead if kudshim becomes, let's say a person designates oil for a mincha, right? So that oil becomes tameh. So you can't use it as a korban anymore for a mincha because it's tameh. So maybe that is what you're talking about. You're allowed to consume. So Gemara says, "I love kavachimer. It's a kavachimer. Uma meiser hakal amatayra loy biarti menu betameh." So when meiser sheni, which is something very lenient, the Torah says, right, the guy makes a statement, I didn't go ahead and consume it while it's tameh. Why? Because it's forbidden to go ahead and consume it as tameh. So kodesh, right, chamor lo kol sheken, certainly hekdesh, which is more holy than meiser sheni, right? Certainly you shouldn't be able to go ahead and consume if it's tameh. So Gemara says, ihachi, if that's your kasha, that's your proof why kudshim, you can't go ahead, because kudshim became tameh, you can't consume. So it's a kavachimer. If meiser sheni, you can't, but so kudshim certainly you can't. So trumanami lema kavachimer hu. Truma is also you have a kavachimer. Truma is more chamer than meiser sheni. So why can you consume truma tameya if you can't consume meiser sheni? So it doesn't make sense. If your whole kasha is why are you excluding hekdesh and you're saying you can go ahead and use truma tameya, because truma tameya, right, it was excluded. So say hektish. So if you're saying no, you can't say hektish because hektish is more chamer. So truma is also more chamer. So why are you doing that? So the Gemara says haksiv menu, but it says mimenu. So we have to go ahead and exclude something. It sounds like meiser sheni you can't consume while it's tameh, but there is going to be something else that you are allowed to go ahead and consume while it's tameh. And what is that? It must be truma.
Wait, how is truma more chamer than hektish?
So the Gemara is going to point out each one. Well, the Torah is asking why truma is more tameh than meiser sheni. All right. So, but it turns out both of them are more
chamer.
More chamer.
Yeah.
Right. It turns out both of them. So the pasuk says meiser sheni you can't have while it's tameh, but there's something else. Mimenu, in other words, meiser sheni you can't have while it's tameh, but something else you can. Now we have to figure out what that something else is. What's that niyut in the pasuk? So we're trying to decide whether it's truma tameya or hektish, right? Kudshim tameya. So now the Gemara says, "Well, ma'rois. Why is it? Why do you feel fit that it's okay to include? It's okay to say that you can consume truma tameya, but you can't go ahead and consume hektish, which is tameya." So the Gemara says, "No, mistavra kodesh lo miyata." No, it's more logical to say that by hektish tameya, we're not going to go ahead and exclude it. Why is that? Shekain simon, right? Panak achas, right? Which we'll explain now, right? Because there's 6 qualities, 6 traits which we find by kodesh or hektish. that we don't find by Truma, and such as Pigel, right? The laws of Pigel, right? We'll go through all these real quickly. The laws of Pigel is that we say that Pigel is something that a person has wrong intentions, even if he does the mice at the right time, right? A person has the wrong intentions, such as the shchita, or he's going to go ahead and consume it, right, at the wrong time, so he can ruin his korban. Naisar, something that was left over, right? Korban, right? Kachim is shaychus, but there's korban, but by Truma is not offered. Me'ilah, right? We say that there's me'ilah, that one is forbidden to get hana from something which is hekdesh, as opposed to there is no me'ilah when it comes to one who gets hana from Truma. The kares, and hekdesh carries he carries an isser of kares if one goes ahead as a tamei and consumes hekdesh. And it also hekdesh is asal einin. Even a kohen who's permitted to go ahead and eat kachim, if he's an einin, he's not allowed to go ahead and partake of hekdesh, mash'en kain. By truma, he is allowed to go ahead and have it. So Gemara points out these chumras when it comes to hekdesh, and we see, hekdesh must be more chumra. Therefore, we're going to go ahead and exclude hekdesh when it comes to if it's hekdesh is tamei. We'll say you can't go ahead and consume it. So the Gemara says, adarabba. What do you mean, fakert? Truma lematena. Why we should not go ahead and exclude truma? Why? There's many chumras by there. Shechein machpas, right? Simon, because we have these traits of which is the sign of it, the symbol of it is machpas, which is what misa is misa b'dei shemai. One goes ahead and for a zar, for a non-kohen who goes ahead and eats it, or a kohen who's tamei, right? And chaimesh, one has to go ahead. If one goes ahead and consumes it, he has to go when he repays it. He has to tack on a fifth. Right? Turn the page. The aim la pidyon, right? And there is no pidyon. You can't go ahead and redeem it. A person sets aside an animal. He does have the ability to go ahead and redeem the animal. Right? He's able to go ahead and do a pidyon, right? To exchange it for something else. Not tamura, but I mean tamura works, but it doesn't remove the status. But there are ways if an animal comes tamei to go ahead and exchange it, a pidyon, which you don't find by truma. The asur lazarim is forbidden to all non-kohanim, right? They can't go ahead and have truma. Ma'shenke by kachim. There's certain kachim that you can go ahead and even if you're non-kohen, be able to partake from. So Gemara answers. So hinach nefishin. So there's 6 verse 4 if you count it out. So notice there's 6 chumras by kachim. There's only 4 chumras by truma. So we'll say, okay, that which one will remain forbidden still eat to get hana while it's tameya? We'll say it's hekdesh. Or you can say, so kodesh chamer, right? Or you can say, no, there's one reason, kodesh is more chamer, shechein anish kares, right? It comes down to the punishment, since it's kares versus misa b'dei shemayim. We'll say kares is more strict, right? Because one gets cut off in the world to come, and in this world. So it's more chamer. So since it's more chamer, then that will remain aser even while it's tameya. Mash'en kain truma tameya. We said that you can go ahead and when you burn it, you still can get hana. And Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak Amar, he says, no, going back to that source, Amar Kra, the pasuk says titain lo. It says over there you should give the kohen lo. Right? You should give going to him your truma, love lo oro. In other words, you have to give to him for him to have the ability to go ahead and consume. But if you give him truma, which is tameya from the get-go, then you're not giving it low, right? You're only giving it to his fire, lo oro. So in other words, we learn from this pasuk that you have to give truma, which he has the ability to consume, to eat, as opposed to just for his fire. But by the fact that it says that we need a pasuk to exclude lo oro, right? We need a pasuk to exclude the fact that you're not allowed to go ahead and give him fire for him to use for his fuel. It must be that truma tmeya has the ability to use it for your fuel or your fire. Michlal de basaru. So we can infer from here that it is basaru. That in other words, that by the fact that the pasuk had to exclude that you can't give the kohen, right, truma from the get-go for him to go ahead and use it for his fire, for his fuel to get hana from. But it must be that if you gave him truma, which is tahira, and that became tamei, he would be able to use it at that point for his own fire. Fine. 2 dots. So Rabbi Shmuel Omer. So back to the Mishnah. The Mishnah says, I want to welcome my good chaver from Eretz Yisrael, Yoni Henner. He was with me at Hakota for a couple of years. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, he's there.
Welcome, Yoni.
So it says over here. So Rabbi Shmuel says. So Rabbi Shmuel says in the Mishnah. I can't find it. Right. Rabbi Shmuel Omer Eimad Likin Be'itra. So he said Mipnei Kavod Shabbos. So he said you can't use Itra Mipnei Kavod Shabbos. Rashi explained over there. Rashi doesn't say right this type of pitch. And Rashi says Mipnei Kavod HaShabbos Sharecha Ra. Right, because its odor is foul. It's a bad smell. So Gemara says over here. So Rav Shalom Omer, so my time, what's the reason? So Amar Rava says, Mitoch sharecha ra gzeira shema yinichenu v'yaitze. So Rava says, because it has a bad smell, then we're worried that the person will go ahead and and leave his table and not eat there. So Gemara says, Amar le'abai v'yaitze. Let him leave. What's the big deal? So okay, so he leaves, right? You lit the candles and sink, so go in the other room. What's the big deal? Shani Amir halakas ner b'Shabbos chayva. Because he holds that Shabbos is a chayv. And Rashi says, what's the chayva? Kavod Shabbosu she'ein suda chashuva el b'kamor. Right? Kenya mama. That what is the kavod? The kavod is to have your meal around lights, and therefore you want it to be near the nearest Shabbos, and therefore by the fact that it smells and a person will have to leave and go into a dark room, that is not kavod Shabbos. And since one is obligated to go ahead and basically have his meal over here at candlelight, right? So therefore we don't want to use this type of oil. Rav Nachman bar Rav Zavdov. I mean, some say Amar Rav Nachman bar Rav Amar Rav. Halakas near Shabbos chayva. The lighting of the candles on near Shabbos is a chiyuv, and rechitzas yadayim raglayim mechamen arbis rishus. And however, washing your hands and your face, right, with warm water on erev Shabbos, right, in the evening means towards the evening, before the evening of Friday night, obviously Friday afternoon, is rishus. However, v'ani amer mitzvah, and I say it's a mitzvah. So my mitzvah, what's the mitzvah? D'amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav kachayim minhago shel Rav Yehuda bar Eloi. This was the minhag of Rav Yehuda bar Eloi, and therefore we should go ahead and continue his custom. That what erev Shabbos mevin lo ariva malei chamin v'reichetz panav yoda v'raglav. All right, they used to go ahead and bring him basically like a large basin full of warm water to go ahead and wash his face, his hands, right, his feet. And he used to go ahead and adorn himself in linen garments, and he used to go ahead and nice colorful linen garments, and he would attach tzitzis to them. And that's how he, if it daimel l'malach Hashem tzvakos, and he was similar to the malachi of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So this is what he used to do at erev Shabbos. He was mechabed Shabbos by the fact that he went ahead and he washed his hands, he took a shower, right, or he washed himself. So therefore, that becomes also a mitzvah because Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi did it, and also that he used to go ahead and dress in linens, and he would go ahead and put tzitzis on them, and that's what he would wear for Kavod Shabbos, and he appeared like the Malach Hashem, the Malachi of Hashem. However, his talmidim, they were scared. They used to go ahead and cover the corners of their linen garments. Basically, they would show that they were not wearing the tzitzis on them. Right, because the linen, we do have an isser of shatnez, right, which is wool and linen, and tchelas, right, or the strings are wool, and so there perhaps is an issue of shatnez when it comes to wearing wool strings on linen garments. But obviously, Rabbi Yehuda bar Eloi did not find that problematic because he himself wore it. So Amarlan Bini, like Hachshanisan Lachem Sadinim Tzitzis, right? Then my students, then I teach you guys that if you have a linen garment, it is obligated to tzitzis. Why? Or in the case of linen garment with tzitzis, Beishamai Paichu, Beisil Machayv. Beishamai says you're potter, because Beishamai does not learn smuchen, right? As the Gemara teaches out in other places, by smuchen. Smuchen is when you have two psukim that are right, really don't appear to be related, but they're written right next to each other in the Torah, and therefore we can actually learn darshan one from the other. So the two psukim over here are, it says lo yisil bas shatnez, and then it's right following it says gedil taselecha, right? You shouldn't wear shatnez, and right afterwards it says you should wear fringes, you should wear tzitzis. So you see from there that normally you shouldn't go ahead and wear shatnez unless you're talking about a linen garment with wool tzitzis. Then that would be the mitzvah of tzitzis, and therefore one would be allowed to go ahead and wear it. The halacha k'divrei Beis Hillel, halacha is like Beis Hillel. However, so what was the reason if the students did it? Beis Hillel said it was aser. Right? However, the students held that perhaps mishum k'sus laila, because a garment which is worn only for the sake of evening, such as pajamas, right? Those are not obligated tzitzis, and therefore, since one might go ahead and since they're not obligated, one might wear linen then and put on wool with his no mitzvah. Therefore, the doing shan therefore we don't want to even do it during the day. So the Gemara really asks, right, or Rashi points out the question. I guess the Gemara asks over there, Gemara in Yevamos, what do you mean? If the Torah says you should wear it, how can you not go ahead and put wool on your linen? If the Torah says to wear it, why are you making a gzera that against the Torah? So he says, so the Gemara answers over there, I guess it's a shev al taseh, right? Since it's not something you actively do. You're not uprooting from the Torah. You're just not doing something, right? You're just not doing it. So therefore, perhaps that's a little different, but you're wearing the garment without the baguette, so you have to, see the Gemara over there in Yevamos. Fine, so two dots. So then it says over there, brings the pasuk in...
Yoel, how is this related to Shabbat? I don't understand this.
How's it what?
How is the tzitzit related to Shabbat?
No. Oh, so we brought it in because we were talking about having light, right, for your Friday night, right, for your Friday meals as an obligation to have your light. And therefore, we also brought other kibudim that were done for the sake of Shabbos, one of which were to wear this beautiful linen garment for Kavod Shabbos. So therefore, they were just pointing out whether this linen garment for Kibbutz Shabbos requires wool tzitzis on it or not. Yeah, good.
What about white
Yeah.
yarmulkes? They wear that
What?
too? White yarmulkes?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yarmulkes.
think about you, Andrew. They have to wear white yarmulkes on
Oh, white yarmulkes. Yeah.
Yeah. We did learn when we learned Menachos that if the tzitzis are the same min as the beged,
Right.
then you can wear linen tzitzis
Right. With the right
on the
That's
beged.
only menach.
The
Right.
problem is only if you're going to wear have a blue string techeles, the techeles will only adhere to wool.
Right. So that's part of the wool. Right. Exactly. So tches really only comes into the wool. Doesn't come into.
Okay, but we also learned that you can have wool tzitzis even on a linen garment.
Right.
Because it's a mitzvah say and it's docha delot say.
But not according to Beis Shammai, because Beis Shammai doesn't learn the smuchim over there. You have to see it's the Gemara in Yavamas deals with
Right.
I think Dalit or whatever. Fine. Anyways, it says
Andrew, no phones.
Batiznach Mishalom Nafshi. So the pasuk over there says that in Yirmiyah Batiznach Mishalom Nafshi, or in Yirmiyah, in Eicha. So it says over there Batiznach Mishalom Nafshi. So he says, right, his soul, right, despaired of having peace. And then it says, Nashisi Tova, and he forgot goodness. So what does this mean? Because afterwards, at the destruction, they weren't even able to find a light for the Ner Shabbos. And therefore he was lamenting that. And Nashisi Tova, Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah, Zo Beis HaMerchatz. That was the Beis HaMerchatz. They had to go to the bathhouse prior to Shabbos. And over here, and Rabbi Yochanan says, "Rechitzas yadayim v'raglayim v'chamin." That's washing the hands and the feet and warm water prior to Shabbos. Rabbi Yitzchak Nachla Omar Zaymito no the kelim noim shaleh. No, this is a nice bed and nice kelim, nice sheets that are on the shaleh. And Rabbi Abba Zalmita Mitzuyas. That's also a bed that was made v'isha mekushesas, and a woman that is adorned the Talmid Chachamim for a woman who's also fit for a Talmid Chachamim. So that was all this the things then the Shisi Tova, that the goodness that he is forgotten from all the things that were no longer around after the destruction. And Tanur Rabbanan Eiza Asher Kol Sheyesh Le Nachas Ruach Ba'Ashira Divrei Rebbe Meir. What is the Asher speaking of with being preparing for Kavod Shabbos? So one who's wealthy, what does it mean to be wealthy? So a person who has Nachas Ruach, he has Nachas Ruach from his wealth. Rashi explains he's Samech B'Chelko, right? Even whether it's a lot or a little, as long as he's happy with his lot. There's the Divrei Rebbe Meir. That's a Pinner Rebbe Meir. Skip the simon. Rabbi Tarfon Oimer Kol Sheyesh Lo Mea Karamim Umea Sados Umea Avodim Sha'ivdim Behen. Whoever person who has 100 vineyards, 100 fields, and 100 servants working them, that is a person who's considered wealthy. Rabbi Kiva Oimer Kol Sheyesh Lo Ishana Ma'isimo. Anybody who has a wife who is good and who is good midos, who's good deeds, right? So such a person is considered a wealthy man. Rabbi Yosi Oimer Kol Sheyesh Lo Beis Akisi Simcha Shulchano. Whoever has a bathroom, right, close to his house, close to his table for his meals, he doesn't have to suffer. So therefore, that is wealth. And Tanya, Rabbi Shimon ben Elazar, Omer, back to the oil, Ein Malikin Vitzri. You can't go ahead and light with balsam for your candles, for your Friday night candle, or on Friday into Shabbos. My time was the reason. Amarabba mitoich sherecha noidaf, right? Because the smell is a very good smell. Right? Gzeira shemistavi mimenu. The gzeira person might come, before we had a person adds oil to it, a person might come ahead and take away oil. Why would he take oil? Because he wants to save it smells so nice. And Rashi says, just like adding oil is being mavir, so too, if you take oil from an existing candle and you remove it, and therefore it's going to go ahead and won't last as long, that's called mechaber, that's called extinguishing a fire, because you took away its potential fuel source. And Amar le Abaye, and says Abaye, why don't you say because it's af? Because it's dangerous, right? He can go ahead and light the house. Maybe it's very flammable, right? Maybe that's the reason why I can't use his balsam. So chadav yod kamar. So in other words, he said two reasons. Really, chadav, first of all, first, the obvious reasons you can't use it because it's very volatile and it can go ahead and light the house. And furthermore, shemi is stopping mimeno. And then the second reason is because a person might go ahead and take some oil from the oil because it smells so nice, and therefore we don't want the person to be violate mechaba. So therefore, we say better not to use this balsam oil at all on Shabbos. Everyone have a lovely day, and thank you for joining us.
Have a good day.
Yeah, that's okay.